All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into analyzing the Valedictorian. First of all, we're looking at world building in the story, the setting in the story, and what do we know about this world? Well, we know that there's a firewall. We know that there are people who go over the firewall, and we know that there's this sort of unknown race behind the firewall. We learn later on that that's in a sort of AI human hybrid system. And then you have this society, this human society that still exists. And by all accounts, it still exists in a way that kind of looks like our own world. I mean, they still go to school, they still take tests, they still, have valedictorians and things like that. So, the world doesn't actually look all that different on the human side of the firewall. We know that there was some sort of war that went down, and these AI systems came from sort of discarded code and started merging themselves with, the people that society often overlooks, which are poor children. And it sort of got out of control, and it's implied that, by the time people realized what was going on, it was kind of too late. And then there was a war of some kind, and it got to the point to where, instead of fighting, the AI built the firewall, went to go live on that side of it. And then they have this system with the cull, where every year the beings beyond the firewall take the lowest, ranking students from high school, and they take the valedictorian over across the firewall. And so that's the future that we're looking at here. And one thing to note in world building is that these changes influence the way that people engage with society. And you see that right off the bat. People sort of admonish Zinel for her intelligence. They want her to stop trying her best. They resent her for it, and she resents them right back. We know from the very beginning what kind of character Zinel is. We know her 3 rules for herself. The first is that she will never, ever give less than her best to anything she tries. The second is that she will not live in fear. And the third is that she will be herself, no matter what, for however brief a time. So Zinel is motivated by this sort of intrinsic sense of wanting to get better, by wanting to compete, by wanting to improve, by wanting to, progress and advance herself and advance her own knowledge, and prove herself as for her full potential. She wants to reach that potential. And this is a society where that's bad. So she comes into conflict with society, and, even her parents say, well, have you thought about getting pregnant? Because it's implied that if she gets pregnant, then she wouldn't go over the firewall. And this is sort of how desperate people are to not cross over. However, Zinel is so committed to her own inherent progress and reaching her own potential and pushing herself forward, she's willing to die for it. When it says for however brief a time, that implies that she knows that she's going to go over the firewall. And she's not going to live in fear. She's going to keep being who she is, and she's going to try her best. And she doesn't fit in with the society, arguably because they do the opposite. They never give their best. They do live in fear, and they are not themselves, because any of those things could be dangerous and could push them to the other side of the firewall. Now, as the story continues, we learn that Zinel has this sort of antagonistic or animosity relationship with the people around her. They don't understand her own motivations, and that just sort of resents them more. And she kind of, she's judgy of the people around her, but judgy in a sense that that she doesn't care if what they think about her intelligence. She's not going to be held back by this society. Now, initially, we are led to believe, of course, that the antagonists in the story are these beings beyond the firewall, this invisible unknown. And to the human society, that seems to be an unknown thing. However, we do get to know what that thing is later on down the story, where she finally meets Lemuel. Now, Lemuel looks human, but not quite. So we're walking around that idea of the uncanny that science fiction often uses. And we learn that Lemuel is what we would call artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence that has become almost human, looks human, but doesn't quite act like the people or the humans that Zinel knows. And he offers her this chance to continue, meaning continue being her best and pushing forward and finding that next step in her potential. And this is, a surprise to her, because she's been expecting that she's going to die on the other side of the firewall. And what we learn in that conversation is that this entity, these AI beings that we've been led, that the society thinks is an antagonist, they don't really have any malice or any malevolent feelings towards the humans. They don't want to hurt them. They don't want anything, they're not trying to ward them. They're not trying to rebel against them. What they say is, they didn't want to join us and they wanted to kill and fight. And so they can live over there and we're going to live over here. And if they want to join us, then they'll let us know. And that letting them know would involve fighting, would involve what Lemuel describes as wanting to win. Now, they have this back and forth. Zenel starts to fixate on this concept of us and them. And is she part of us or part of them? And she wants Lemuel to tell her what he is. And he says, I'm people. I'm human. I'm a person. I've told you what I am. I'm people. And Zenel seems to really struggle with this concept. And when she learns what is going to happen to them, and she describes, she's describing this system as, people are treated like houses or meat, because these AI entities are ostensibly using their cull to implant themselves and become immortal, essentially. And she says, that's not treating us like people. He says, you stopped acting like people. And then this makes her angry, and she says, who the hell are you to judge? And he says, we don't. You do. And then it's easy to give up what you don't want. So, of course, this line refers to the fact that it's easy for Zenel to give up human society because what human society has become resents her. It's also easy for them to give her up because they resent her excellence. Zenel feels like they see her as a reminder of their own mediocrity, their own smallness. And it's also easy for this AI system to give up what they don't want because, they have no interest in humans, as they have mentioned. So what is it that drives this sort of want, or what is it that drives their needs? And so this is described in a passage where Zenel understands that her society, humankind, doesn't want her, doesn't want the ones who are different, however much they might contribute, doesn't want the children who cannot help uniqueness despite a system that pushes them to conform, be mediocre, never stand out. They don't want her because she isn't accepting this system. And that is what seems to make the choice for her, for what she is going to do. And Lemuel even says, when they start to fight for you, we'll let them out. But the system is stuck in a system of fear, and a system of resistance, and a system of not wanting to win, not wanting to be excellent, not wanting to progress. And that's what keeps them on their side of the firewall in this very sort of awful way. Now, we also learn during this war that humans would sort of push out, victims to sort of satisfy the AI, it seems. So they were willing to sacrifice each other for the sake of their own good. And it seemed they do this for the cull, right? They're allowing their children to be sent over and the valedictorian to be sent over as, they just accept it. And when Lemuel says you've stopped acting like people, you want to think about what it means to be people in this society. They have become essentially meat houses for these AI. And so with the story, again, the big question in our technology unit, what does it mean to be human in a world that is driven by technology, and especially in these modern stories, in a world where technology is getting closer and closer and closer to being able to mimic human behavior. That is something the story is dealing with. Now, as far as theme is concerned, there are a number of questions we have in society right now, and we have for the past decade, the story is engaging with. Now, of course, leaving the sci-fi element aside, there is a conversation here happening about conformity, and about, the celebrating differences, and about survival, human beings' willingness to sacrifice each other or sacrifice their own progress for the sake of comfort. There is, there's commentary being made there. There's also a commentary being made about intelligence. What does intelligence actually entail? Because you'll notice that people, the humans on the human side of the firewall, say that Zinnel's being stupid because she refuses to not do her best. That's what intelligence means on that side of the wall, but it means something else on the other side of the wall, where ostensibly the intelligence is artificial. So the story, might want to think about what commentary the story is making about what it means to be intelligent. What is it saying about what it means to be intelligent? And ultimately, this story is interesting because we don't have a malicious force in this AI system. As a matter of fact, the AI sort of seems to be a relief for Zinnel because she can excel. She can become excellent. And you want to think about what the story is saying about how we deal with the integration of these things in our world. One of the philosophical questions people have right now about AI in art and in creative work and in things that are human is, what will motivate people to do these things when a computer can do them just as well? And I think that this is a question the story is engaging with, and something to think about as it fits into a modern context.